What's up everyone, Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick and I have an album review for you. Been a little while since we've done a review. We had a fun little time in Maryland with our good friends The Crypt and Scully from metal-o-mania. Thank you so much for having us. We had a great time. We're definitely looking forward to doing it again for sure. But while I was there were definitely some albums I wanted to cover when I got back, and this one is one I firmly had planted on my radar. We're gonna go over the debut full length from Tombstoner, Victims of Vile Torture. This came out on the 30th of July on Redefining Darkness. This is this band's full-length debut. They had a debut EP, which I got and actually made my year-end list for EPs in 2020. Formed in 2019 in Staten Island, New York City, New York. These guys pretty much kind of navigate between death and thrash metal with little bits of hardcore in there. They have an amazing sound overall. It is raw, gritty, riff-driven. And one of the cool things about them is it's two sets of brothers that are actually in the band. I just think that's really cool. You got family involved in your metal. That's just, pretty sweet. Anyway, I was really hyped about this release because I wanted to see what they could offer in terms of a full length, because the EP I thought was pretty much all killer, no filler. And this full length is flat out killer. You get a lot of what they brought forth in terms of their overall sound from the EP, but luckily, no repeat tracks. So everything on the EP is standalone, and that is something I definitely love. These guys have a very old school sound, very entrenched in early 90s, late 80s death metal and thrash metal, and occasionally a bit of hardcore. The opening track, which is the title track, just brings in the thunderous groove a la Obituary and Bolt Thrower, and just lays down some thick, chunky, thrashy, but kind of almost like Cannibal Corpse riffs. Now, one thing these guys do across the board on here, and I think it is done even better than it was in the EP, is vocals. There are two vocalists. Now, I'd have to say, like, the more thrashy delivery, that vocalist is the one that does the majority of it, but the other vocalist brings in death roars, and they really know how to balance these out and use them quite effectively. You get good alternating sections in terms of vocal trade-offs, but you also get songs that are dominated by one particular style of vocal, which is really cool because it'll bring out, say, the death metal side or the thrash metal side of their sound. And that is something I absolutely loved on here, because bringing in those heavier guttural vocals over some absolutely disgusting, chunky death metal riffs, it cements that this is a death metal band. But on the same token, it could flip in a heartbeat and go to this raspy, thrashy bark, which is generally very high energy, and most of the vocal cadences from that guy are a little bit faster, comes off thrashy as hell. So it's really cool how they mix the two genres in terms of fusion, but when they decide to separate them up, they have a vocalist that can complement each style. This is a really well mixed album. This is not like cavernous, but it's fiercely old school. It's just well produced. Plenty of compression on it, but it's mixed really well so you can hear every element, and I absolutely love the sound. The guitar tone in particular has such a wonderful crunch to it. And the drums are absolutely pummeling, and the bass isn't buried in the mix. It's actually pretty prominent, and you can actually hear them do some really cool stuff. Like there's some really flashy bass lines in the beginning of Breaking Point, and it really complements the song, the fact that you can actually hear them. It's not just buried, because, I mean, death metal, you get a lot of that. But this one, they gave the bass player a little bit of love, and they made sure that everything else was mixed really well. So yeah, overall production on here is fantastic. Now again, most of this is sort of that homogenized death thrash fusion, but there are songs in here that definitely go after one over the other, and I really liked the fact that they were able to use that, and it kind of breaks up the pace of the album, so you don't get this blended style across all 10 tracks. They really vary it up well. Breaking Point and Sledgehammer in particular definitely seem to go more for the thrash metal side. The thrash metal vocals dominate. You get more high-paced triplet chugs, fast thrashy rhythms, but they bring in breakdowns to separate that up, and a couple of death metal riffs here and there, and then the death metal vocalist will do just a little pocket of stuff. But overall, those two have more of a thrash metal sound. And then you get songs like Nothing Sacred and Armageddon, which definitely go more towards the death metal side. Nothing Sacred might be my favorite one on here, because this one actually kind of throws out a lot of different things, stuff that really wasn't on the EP, namely atmospheric bits. Now, atmosphere isn't a huge thing on here. They aren't breaking up every track with like samples from horror movies or like symphonic stuff or whatever, but they use it sparingly, and it's effective to separate up the tracks and include some cool dynamics. Nothing Sacred in particular opens up with very doom-laden riffs and big dissonant lead melodies before just going into almost like a mix of Morbid Angel and Jungle Rot. Sort of has that stripped down approach, but the riffs definitely scream Morbid Angel. You get some really cool, creepy tremolos. It's a little bit sludgier and dirtier feeling, but powerful. It has such a punch. That song is very well written too. And that's something I really liked from the EP. I like the EP. It's really good. I think the songs are excellent. These show more dynamics and more diverse songwriting because honestly, they aren't working with like a lot of different elements here. They are pretty much taking straight from a lot of 90s material, and that's awesome. But the inclusion of some atmosphere and some stuff that wasn't necessarily present on the EP really makes that stand out to me. Definitely shows more songwriting maturity, I guess you could say, because a lot of these songs really stand out and stand apart from their previous work, and that was something I was kind of looking for because you get the sample size, now you get the full platter, and you want to see what they bring, and what they brought is just flat out intense death thrash. I don't know, like it really is kind of hard to call it just death thrash because there's other elements in here too. The title track and Trepidation, when the more thrashy vocals come in, they almost kind of have a hardcore sort of cadence, and there are some grooves and breakdowns on here that definitely scream more hardcore. I really like that, of course, because, you know, being an old school Victory Records fan, I really got into that. But what they do with breakdowns, and there are plenty of breakdowns on here, is really cool because they sort of take breakdowns from different subgenres, I guess you could say. The breakdown in The Witch actually screams more Death Doom, so you get this little pocket moment of something more akin to Hooded Menace. Gravedancer practically closes that song with a dying fetus, brutal death metal style breakdown. And then Sledgehammer, which I was kind of hoping it would be a cover of Peter Gabriel just because I love that song, but I'm kind of glad it isn't. I'm still all for it though if someone wants to do a full-on metal cover of that. That breakdown is definitely more hardcore related, so it's really cool how they kind of vary all that up in there. And the main thing is they never lose intensity. In fact, I would say like the least intense moments on here has to be around the clean break in Armageddon. It actually drops out everything in favor of clean guitars and a really cool melodic buildup. And then you get the guest musician on here, Ben Karras of Thank You Scientist, which I still have yet to check out. I guess they're a really cool prog band out of New Jersey, but he comes in with a violin and it actually kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. Some good, some bad though. I think in some parts the violin is overused because it's on here more than just this one moment, and I couldn't tell if it was synthesized or an actual violin on here. But the moment on that bridge on Armageddon, I think it's really good. I really like how the violin worked on this clean moment. It kind of worked well with the guitar melody, and it complemented the solo, which solos aren't really all over this. They're kind of used a little bit more sparingly, but also used effectively. But as it went on, I think the violin kind of became a little bit much, kind of reminded me a bit of Fleshed Out Apocalypse, which I do like, but this whole album does not scream that. It's a more raw, stripped down album. It's all about the power of big, chuggy riffs. It's not very technical. It doesn't need to be because it is so damn aggressive and it's just written well and fun. Throwing in the symphonic elements, it kind of feels like they were pushing too hard for maybe a little bit bigger sound, which granted, I encourage that. It just didn't necessarily work out, at least for me on this. But overall, I really dug this album. It's punchy as hell. I had a feeling it'd be good because I really liked that EP, and there's been a little bit of hype about it, and I can see why. So overall, I'm gonna give this 4.5 stars. This album bangs. There was, again, only one moment where I was like, that's only okay. The rest of it is jaw-droppingly heavy, groovy as hell, so many good hooks. There's so many good riffs on here. The dual vocalist thing really works well in here, especially when you're kind of blending, you know, styles there. You have a cool fusion sound. I absolutely love this. It's pretty much a relentless listen, and it delivers the goods pretty much on all fronts. So if you have not checked out Tombstoner, definitely check this out. Check out their EP too. It's absolutely awesome. But yeah, definitely check this one out. And once again, year-end lists are going to be difficult because this is another really killer album that I thoroughly enjoyed. But I'm going to have to make one eventually. But we're not there yet. So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon, so if you'd like to help us out there will be a link below in the description. We're going to get around to putting more stuff on there. We've kind of been a little bit lax here, but we're getting around to it. And we still have some shirts available, mostly in the realm of XL, large, and 2XL. If you are any of those sizes, definitely hit us up on thrallsofmetal@gmail.com. Put shirts in the message, and we will get back to you, get your information, and get you a shirt. We're going to order some more here soon just because we need to restock, and we also want to get some other stuff with our label on it and sell you that too, hopefully. So with that, I thank you all for watching, and we will catch you later.